Hi everybody, Mr. Martin back again. I'm going to go over bench weak points. Now, this is going to be the same style of video that I made yesterday, talking about the different squat weak points, different causes, possible causes for those weak points, and what we can do to address those weak points. So today we're going to go over the bench press. This one's honestly pretty simple. The bench press is not a super complicated movement, so chances are you're just too small and weak to move the weight properly, okay? But I'm going to go over possible reasons why you're missing in certain ranges of the movement and how we fix that, okay? We're going to start with weakness off the chest. Now, I have listed down 3 different reasons that are the most common things I see why people would miss off the chest. And when I'm talking about off the chest, I'm talking about 1 to 2 inches. So you either can't get it off your chest or you barely start the movement and you just run out of gas right there, okay? So, the first one is going to be a lack of tightness. Now this is either lack of tightness in the upper body or in the lower body. Because if you guys don't know, the bench is a full body movement, but the prime movers are your upper body. So when you set up into the bench press, if you are not tight in the upper back, you're all loosey-goosey and your shoulder blades are pulled apart and you're laying flat back on the bench, you are going to have 0 power off the chest. You're going to have no strength right at the bottom of the movement. Right where arguably it's the hardest because your muscles are stretched out the most. When we're talking about leg tightness, I'm talking about tension into the ground. If you have seen anybody bench heavy in the high school weight room that doesn't have a whole lot of experience, chances are when they start trying to grind out reps, their legs start flailing all over the place. That's the body's natural reaction to try and use leg drive, but because you're laying down horizontally, the ground's not directly underneath your feet and your body's trying to use that leg drive. So in order to stay tight in the lower body, you need to dig your feet into the ground and just keep them pressed there, okay? That's just a foundation to keep your body stable. The second reason that I see, this one is pretty common actually, and this is one that I struggled with a lot when I was in high school as well, is an inefficient bar path. Now, what an inefficient bar path means is that you're touching in a bad spot essentially. You either put the bar too low towards your stomach or you touch too high towards your collarbone. If you don't touch in the right spot, you're going to risk more injury and you're not going to be nearly as strong as you could be. My problem when I was in high school was that I would always touch way too low on my stomach, and I'd rely on trying to get good rebounds in order to get the bar moving. And what would happen is with normal training weights, at the time I think my bench press was stuck around 275. At the time, anything between like 185 and 250 I'd be able to get it moving and it'd be just fine, but as soon as I went over 250, it'd be really hit or miss. Sometimes I'd hit it, sometimes I wouldn't, and that's because I touch really low and I'm not allowing my muscles to do the work. I'm trying to rely on momentum of the barbell, which is not the way to go in my opinion. So touching too high will accentuate your shoulder stress. So if you have bad shoulders, touching too high is going to be a no-go, okay? I would rather you touch right along the sternum. It'll be right underneath the pec. It'll be right on that bone that you can feel between your pec muscles, okay? And the third reason for being stuck off the chest is that you just have a weak chest. Now, in smaller, skinnier guys, this is common. People who started lifting, 6 months, a year ago, people who don't have a whole lot of mass behind them, having a weak chest can be a reason for them to miss the rep. But being small and weak also plays a factor in being tight. You can't make muscles tight if you don't have muscles to make tight, okay? Your back and your lats and your traps and everything, they're not going to be able to create a whole lot of tightness if you don't have big, strong muscles in the first place. So if this is the case, you need to back the weight down and just bench more often, okay? Just train more. That's going to fix this right away. The inefficient bar path, the way I would fix that is to take weight off the bar. I would practice doing tempo reps, which just means take nice and slow reps. Practice touching in the correct spot every single time. Make sure every time you perform the bench press, it looks exactly the same, okay? The more efficient that you get at touching the same spot every time, the more natural it's going to become, and then the less you have to worry about it. The lack of tightness is also a practice thing. You have to practice getting tight into the bench with your back. You have to practice not letting that go and not letting your shoulder blades pull forward as the set goes on, and you have to practice keeping your feet down, okay? So weak chest, train more. Inefficient bar path and a lack of tightness is a practice thing, okay? So now we'll move on to the next weak point that I see, and this is personally where I fail, okay? This is the mid-range. This is 3 to 6 inches off the chest depending on how long your arms are. So this right here, this little range of motion right here would be right at the chest. Anywhere in here would be the mid-range, okay? And that's personally where I failed, because that's where the tension has to shift from my pecs into my triceps. So there are 3 more reasons why I think that you guys might be missing your bench presses in the mid-range. Number 1 is you have weak shoulders or weak triceps. I personally see a lot of kids in here that don't do any overhead training. That's where they tend to miss their benches if they've been training a significant amount of time. You can't have somebody come in here that just started lifting, they haven't done any shoulder training, they're not going to miss in the mid-range. They're going to miss at the bottom, okay? But somebody who's been training a year, 2 years, 3 years, who doesn't do any overhead training, I would argue this is probably where they're going to fail, unless they have some kind of different build that allows them to have some kind of advantage there. So, for me personally, it's weak shoulders / triceps. That's usually the cause for me missing in the mid-range, is I just can't transfer the weight into the muscles I need to properly. Number 2, this is the second reason, is a loss of control of the barbell, okay? And over this last weekend, I just had a competition that I went to. I did pretty good, by the way. But I missed my second attempt bench press because of this reason. And it's just because I lost a little bit of control of the barbell. I haven't had a problem in months with, I haven't missed a bench rep in months, whether it be a 1 rep maximum attempt or a set of 8 or 10, okay? Don't miss reps in training, but all those successful reps have really built up my confidence and my skill with controlling the barbell. And in the meet, I did something wrong and I lost control of it, and it ended up over my stomach for too long, and I missed a weight that I've done for 2 or 3 before, okay? So, the third point would be allowing yourself to lose position in the upper back and or your shoulders pushing forward, okay? And that is all kind of plays in the same thing. So what I mean by losing position in the upper back, that is when you bring the bar to your chest, and with the bar on your chest, that bar is trying to flatten your back out. If you set up with any amount of arch, which I recommend you should, I do not recommend a super accentuated arch. I recommend just enough arch to keep your shoulders in a good position. But when you touch that bar to your chest, that bar is actively trying to flatten you out, okay? It's like a rainbow, like this, you know, rainbow like that. When the bar touches here, it's trying to flatten you against the bench. That's where your back plays a role in keeping your position tight, okay? The shoulders pushing forward is kind of the same thing, but you can get flattened without your shoulders coming forward. So your shoulders coming forward will look like this. You set up and you start in a good position, but when you press, your shoulder blades come forward and your shoulder joints move forward like that. That eliminates all your strength as well. So in my meet, when I failed my rep, it was a mix of both of these. Because the bench I was using was a little bit slipperier, than I'm used to. The heavy weight, I missed a 341 bench, which is something I should be able to hit pretty easily. The bar flattened me out a little bit, and then because I got flattened out, I lost control of it, and it wasn't where I needed it to be to finish. So I came back on the next attempt, and I added 5 pounds, and then figured it out, and it was all good from there. But personally, this is where I fail. If I'm going to fail, like if I load up a weight that I'm not going to be able to finish, I'm just not strong enough to hit, I'm going to fail in here. So, we're going to move on to the last part, sticking point that I usually see. This one's a little bit more rare. I don't see very many people who fail directly at the lockout, which would be like the last 5 inches of the lift or so. 3 to 5 inches. So, here would be off the chest, anywhere in here. Here would be the mid-range. A lockout would be up here where you just can't get your elbows straight, okay? Now, the number one reason I see this happen is weak triceps. If you don't train your triceps enough, your lockout's going to be kind of weak. Number 2 is that the bar is too low, and this also plays into why I failed my bench press this last weekend. The bar was too low, and what I mean by that is it's too low towards your stomach. Optimally, you want to touch the bar about here. I had it over here, I think. It was halfway up, but I had the bar down here. So it was way too low for me to be able to handle the amount of weight that was on the bar. And then, same thing that plays into here, loss of upper back tightness. That is kind of a reason for all of them. But you're not just going to lose your position in any one of these three positions. It could happen continually throughout the whole lift if the weight's heavy enough. You could be really tight at the bottom, and as the bar moves up, you could progressively lose tightness, and that could be a reason why you're missing a lockout. chances are you're not going to miss here, okay? People who train in like bench shirts and stuff, which is very powerlifting specific, I would not recommend any high school athlete go into that unless they have a coach that knows how to train for that style of lifting. But if you're not doing that and you're just a raw bencher, which just means your body and that's it, no slingshots or anything. If you're familiar with like Mark Bell and his products, nothing like that, then chances are you won't miss here unless you just lose position, okay? So this right here is probably, sorry, you can't really see that very well, but this is the main reason why you would miss a lockout. You just lose position, okay? Either that or here, but I would say this is probably higher chance of happening. Mid-range, I would say that it's the weak shoulders or triceps, or it's the loose position, okay? If you have enough practice and you've done your whole training cycle with good quality reps, losing control of the bar is a rare thing to happen. It does happen once in a while, but it's rare to happen if you practice with good reps, okay? Weak points off the chest. The only people I see miss off the chest is skinny people or people who just lose tightness, okay? So you're either weak in general or you lose tightness or you just didn't start with it, okay? So those are the main reasons or the main sticking points that I see in the bench press, and that's those are the causes, possible causes, and possible solutions for that. In a future video, I'm going to go over different exercises that you can use to address these different parts of each lift. But first and foremost, I recommend addressing your technique flaws instead of just throwing an extra movement in there to try to train it. Because chances are you'll be able to fix it a lot quicker if you just dial in your technique a little bit. If you're a pretty newer lifter, I would say if you're 5 years or less into your strength training journey, you don't need to worry about adding super specific movements for like parts of your bench, unless maybe you have like a deformity where like you have one pec that doesn't work properly or something like that, or like you broke a bone and now a joint doesn't work. Maybe then, but in general, I recommend just training more with proper technique. 9 times out of 10, that'll fix the problem, okay? Next video I'm going to do is a deadlift, okay? And I know a lot of people like to deadlift now here at the Lee Ground weight room. Since I've started the powerlifting team, deadlifting has kind of become a favorite of people in here, just because you can go the heaviest. I think deadlifting is the most fun exercise of all of them too. A lot of people like bench press, but a lot of people like deadlift too. So I'm going to go over deadlift weak points and possible causes and solutions for those as well. So stay tuned for that. Have a good day.